On tonight's Conscious Resistance, I bring to you my report back from Ferguson, Missouri after the protests, the rioting, and the community efforts following the shooting of Michael Brown on August 9th. We also look at homeschooling on the rise across the country. We take a look at the recently released memo on Anwar Al-Awlaki's drone assassination, and we talk about why it's important to slow down. All this and more tonight on The Conscious Resistance. On August 9th, 2014, in Ferguson, Missouri, Michael Brown was shot to death by Officer Darren Wilson of the Ferguson Police Department. Now, many of you know the details on this event, so I'm not going to go too deep into it right now. I've actually written a full report on this for benswan.com, which we will put in the link under the video if you want to go deeper into this. We also have a full playlist of videos on our channel. We'll link that right here or somewhere. But what I want to talk about tonight, beyond the specifics of what happened and whether or not Darren Wilson should be charged, whether or not Mike Brown was a thug, and the specifics on the case, I'd like to go into one of my thoughts in closing after spending 5 days in Ferguson and interviewing family members, interviewing neighbors, interviewing community members, interviewing the cops, and even the supporters of the officer, and my take on why it's important to have a philosophical understanding of what you mean when you say the whole damn system's guilty as hell, or down with the system, or fuck the police, or end capitalism, or even end the state. Because in my experience, not only in Ferguson, but definitely the past few days, and listening to the chants and watching people in the community come out to the streets out of anger and mistrust and really just being sick of having to deal with violence against their community, I see a lot of good people who are striving to make efforts to change their community, to change what they see. They say down with capitalism, down with the system, down with the police force and the state. But at the same time, I wonder, and I asked some of these people, what do they mean exactly when they say that these words, this rhetoric, which, to be honest, these days, revolution rhetoric is sold like t-shirts. It's just another fad. It's another movement for some people to get into while they're maybe in the rebellious period in life. But for others of us, we're seriously looking to overthrow the government, and to do this in a philosophical way of changing the hearts and minds to create an evolution of humanity so that we can move past the state and move towards something better, even move past the police as we know them in their current form. But not everybody is on that level. Now, that doesn't mean that we are better than them in any way, and I'm going to be a collectivist here. We, those of us who have a philosophical understanding, even if that doesn't mean agorist, libertarianism, anarcho-capitalist, or anything like that, whatever your idea is, if you have a philosophical understanding of what type of revolution you want, then I commend you for that, because I will say there are lots of good people who go out to the streets and they really don't know what they want different. They know that, yeah, cop violence is bad, and I wish that I had more of a say in the way things went, and that people taking bribes from corporations is not good, and damaging the environment, and lying to people, all these things, they're bad, but they don't understand why these things happen, how we can stop them. And so in their efforts to seek change almost blindly, they can get caught up in a whirlwind of false revolution. Now, we've seen this happen in other countries, the Egyptian revolution, these color revolutions are what they're called. If you don't know that term, please look it up. Look up some articles by Brandon Turbeville, who's done some great work on color revolutions. But essentially, it's a false flag revolution. Now, that doesn't mean that all the people on the ground in Egypt and these other places are a part of it. No, there's people, good people, as I'm talking about here in Ferguson in the United States, that want change and see the corruption, see the problems, but they are not the ones who are leading and guiding that. Other people can step up to the plate and guide you in a way that may seem like it's good for you, but actually will serve the interests of the ruling class once again. And I only see this happening, though, if people aren't guided by their principles and deeply rooted in them and have a philosophical understanding of what you want. So let me give you an example of what I want when I say I want a revolution. I would like to put an end to state violence. I would like to put an end to police violence. I would like to put an end to an institution coming into a geographical area and making decisions for other people without their consent. I would like to put an end to this holding a gun to people's heads in order to affect change. Now, specifically on that, all those problems, as far as I'm concerned, can be traced back to the government. And you say corporations play a role in this, and I say corporations do play a role in this, but you have to understand that corporations are given their power, and the very entity of corporations was created by a government itself. So, some people say you're throwing the baby out with the bathwater if you say, well, then just get rid of the whole government. Well, I say you're moving too slow. You can take your steps progressively towards eroding the violence that the police inflict, backed by the state's power, and you can vote to eliminate some of the corruption in your local community, because by all means, if you're going to vote, I'd say focus your energy on local level, maybe even state sometimes, but for the most part, 100%, I'd say 100%, you are wasting your time and energy trying to vote on the federal level, because they don't care what you say, they're going to do whatever they want. Sometimes local politicians do the same thing, but I've seen some good work happen in the community by voting local. So if you're going to do that, stick locally. But for the most part, you're still just incrementally working against this institution, this gigantic machine that survives off of war and violence and lying. I mean, that's how it sustains itself. It cannot exist by being honest and open. And what the conscious resistance is about, and what I believe anarchy is about being in the light, being transparent and open and honest. And that is the very antithesis to what a government, a state entity is about. They cannot exist transparently, because if they did exist transparently, then the people would not allow the things that they do to continue. Now, maybe in some other, some other society, we might be able to create a government that is transparent and open. Because even in an anarchist society, what we would have is say, 10 individuals, we'll start small, who come together and they say they want to live together. Well, they're going to create ways to interact with each other. That could be seen as a form of government. Maybe one of them is going to focus on watching the animals, and the other is going to focus on the garden, and the other one might do like a night watch to protect their community. So all that collectively is a government. So there will always be some type of governing force and interaction between individuals, but it doesn't have to be this huge overarching federal, state, and state government that we see. It can be something much smaller and much more responsible and respectful to the people, and that's what I'm working for. But governments as we know them now do not do that and cannot do that because of everything that they're involved in. I mean, we talk about secrets behind 9/11. We talk about, poisoning the people through ignorance or through, purposeful means. We also talk about the people's voices being ignored. I mean, specifically in Ferguson, there's people going up to the cops and yelling, "How do we know we can trust you? How do we know you're going to look out for us?" Because those people don't know, and they feel ignored, they feel pushed aside by their community, and it's gone on for so long that now they've decided they're going to take a chance and actually stand up for themselves. So, in closing on this thought, I just want you to think about this. When you go out to these protests or you go out to meet other people and you hear people saying generic rhetoric, ask them, what do they mean specifically? How do they, what is the change that they're after? What is the end game, the final goal, and how do they plan to get there? And see if they've thought about it. And if not, encourage them to do that. And if you haven't thought about this, whatever your philosophical, political background is, then please do take a moment to think about what your goals are and the methods that you're choosing to get there. Because I promise you, as long as we stay deeply rooted in ourselves and our principles, and we let that guide us, then it's impossible for outside forces to co-opt and to move our evolution in a place and in a direction we don't want to go. So think about that and stay rooted in here. Now, I'm not a parent, but I am an uncle 4 times. I've got 2 beautiful nieces and 2 beautiful nephews. And more and more, I think maybe someday I might have a kid. But the idea of having a kid truly terrifies me. And not just because I'd have to give up this free-willing lifestyle that I have, but also because of everything that goes along with trying to protect this human being, this new life that you have created and chose to brought into this world that, for all intents and purposes, is pretty fucked up. But mainly, I think about how can I teach and raise my child to understand the world without giving too much of my own propaganda, because I want this potential child, to be free to develop its own thoughts. I don't want it to just follow the parents' line of thinking. I want it to be independent, and if it decides to become a statist or something that I might really not enjoy, that's the child's freedom to do so. But in line with that thinking, I also wonder, how can I instill that type of thinking if my potential child would be forced to go to the state school? Because we know that state schools do not teach critical thinking. There's some really good books and documentaries on this. Charlotte Iserbyt, I think is how she says her name, and there's another guy. I'll put the links in the video below for you who want to look more into how the state school system brainwashes your child. But we are seeing a rise in homeschooling efforts around the nation. A new study shows that homeschooling numbers have surpassed the number of children who are enrolled in state schools in Richmond County and North Carolina. Now, this is according to North Carolina's Department of Administration Non-Public Education Division. In 2013 and 2014, more children enrolled in homeschooling over private schools and even charter schools. It says that 98,172 students were homeschooled compared to 95,768 students who were privately schooled. So, do you think this reflects a trend happening around the nation? I know that in Houston, there's the unschooling movement through the Real School. I've seen lots of good information come from Dana Martin, who talks a lot about unschooling and this move towards giving children an option that is more geared towards what they want to learn. Unschooling specifically goes beyond just homeschooling and the parent teaching the curriculum to the child themselves, which definitely, even with homeschooling, you could have more of an influence in what your child's learning and thinking, and you can teach them those critical thinking skills. But with unschooling, it goes beyond that, and it's about what does your child want to learn today? They feel like coloring today and drawing. Well, let's learn about the history of art and let's do an art project together. Or, you give them a handful of topics and they want to learn about how cars work. So you go do an oil change and, take a car apart. It's about teaching children real skills that they may use later on in life and actually encouraging those parts of their brain to work that develop critical thinking skills and creativity beyond just sitting in a classroom and having to repeat facts over and over and having information propaganda drilled into their head all day long. So good job, North Carolina. And what are your guys' thoughts on homeschooling, unschooling, and if you're a parent, how do you work to escape the state propaganda? Leave your comments below. So I've been on the road quite a bit. I mentioned that I just got back from Ferguson, Missouri, and right before that, I just arrived back in Houston from spending time on the road at the Jackalope Freedom Festival in Arizona. By the way, please click that video if you have not seen it to check out what freedom looks like when people gather independently in the forests of Arizona. Also, though, I went to the Contact in the Desert conference in Joshua Tree, California. And some of you may have seen these videos. We recently caught up with Jim Marrs, New York Times bestselling author and researcher, also former British government employee and UFO investigator Nick Pope, and the host of Coast to Coast, George Norrie. And we're working on more interviews from Michael Tellinger, who's a discoverer, independent researcher, and also the creator of the Ubuntu philosophy and contributionism. Had some interesting conversations with him. And we also talked to world-renowned author and researcher Eric von Däniken, who is the author of Chariot of the Gods and tons of other books on the ancient alien theory and on UFOs and mankind's possible history. So please check those out, guys. We've got a full playlist on our YouTube channel, The Conscious Resistance, where you can see all those videos in full, and of course you can find them on our website, theconsciousresistance.com. Right now, check out this clip. This is Derrick with TCR, and we're here at the Contact in the Desert conference in Joshua Tree, California, talking to George Norrie.
Derrick, I'm fine. How are you?
Doing great. So you're the well-known host of Coast to Coast, and we're here talking about UFO, alien contact, ancient aliens. You hosted a panel earlier. You are part of the panel. What do you think is the most outrageous or clear piece of evidence that's been brought to you through your show over the years?
Oh, there's been so much. Sightings, real sightings by dedicated, hardworking Americans, police officers, military officials. When you hear all that from these real people who say, look, I was guarding a missile silo and a UFO flew over and shut down everything. I had no control. And then it kind of flew away and everything came back. It's got to wake you up. And you got to say, there's got to be something to it. But one of the most compelling things for me in my career was interviewing Edgar Mitchell, Apollo 14 astronaut, walked on the moon, when he looks you in the eye and he says, we're being visited, I never saw anything, but the people in government I know have told me that. That's all it takes.
Absolutely. So we're talking about ancient aliens, we're talking about government cover-ups. One other issue that I wanted to get your thoughts on, we're a month away from the 13th anniversary of the September 11th attacks, and there's still a number of efforts from family members, architects and engineers, independent activists who are still trying to get an independent investigation, searching for truth in all kinds of ways. What are your thoughts on that topic, and will we ever know the truth?
Well, you will find that eventually, you will find that there was a deeper message with Saudi Arabia and whatever their involvement might have been, much bigger than what we know. There are 28 classified pages from that 9/11 Commission's report that have been hidden from us. Hopefully one day we'll get to the bottom of that. I think the entire thing just stinks of a cover-up. Do I believe that our government did this? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Do I believe people in government knew about it, that it was going to happen, and they sit back and let it happen? Yes, no question about it. Did they help finance some of these people who did this, those real terrorists who hit our guests? Guts? Yeah, maybe. They may have done that too. 9/11 is a much broader story from what we have been led to believe.
Absolutely. Now, someone brought this to my attention. I was unaware about this. They proposed the idea that 9/11, as you say, is a big issue, goes in all kinds of different directions, and some people say it was to cover up financial crimes and a number of different things. Someone brought to my attention, though, Dr. Stephen Greer doing his first National Press Club meeting right before 9/11, discussing disclosure.
Destroyed it.
And then we never hear about it again.
It was bad timing for Stephen at the time. I don't think 9/11 had anything to do with that, but for him, it was bad luck. Just came up at the wrong time.
One last question regarding UFOs, 9/11, government cover-ups, all the different things that you cover on your programs. Do you think that there is an awakening taking place over the world? Have you seen your audience grow and people become more open to these ideas?
There's not only been a huge awakening and a growing of people who are understanding this and beginning to understand it, but I think it's going to continue to grow because people just want the truth. They just want answers. And they're not going to take it anymore until they do.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Derrick.
I wonder what the founders of this country would have thought if they knew that the government would grow to create flying machines that dropped bombs on American citizens. Now, I'm not the biggest lover of the founders of the Constitution itself, but I do think this is not what they intended. And I do think that citizens, even back in the day, the beginning of this country, the birth of this nation, and going before that, the people who are here, might find it outrageous to think that a governing body, again, with a gun to the head of the people, ruling over them, could tell them, if you talk to the wrong groups that we deem as terrorists, if you fund them, if you talk about them, if you support them, whatever support means, then we could erode the Constitution, erode your right to a trial by jury and judge, and drop a bomb on you. Not only that, but we can override another nation's sovereignty and say, hey guys, you're holding somebody that we don't like, and they're one of our citizens, so we're going to come kill them. And what are they going to do about it? We're the big bad United States. Now specifically, I'm talking about the case of Anwar Al-Awlaki and his son, who were both killed by drone bombing, the drone assassination, at the hands of President Obama. Anwar Al-Awlaki was bombed on September 30th, 2011 in Yemen. He was suspected of having ties to Al-Qaeda, and yes, he was putting out propaganda videos, encouraging people to rise up against the United States, and the United States government also tried to tie him to the 2009 Christmas Day underwear bomber, but look into it further, guys. That whole thing's a farce, so I doubt Al-Awlaki is connected to that. Anyways, though, they've been working to connect him to these terrorists, and they decided in secret that they were going to take him out. Now, most Americans wouldn't even bat an eye. They're like, okay, cool, another terrorist, Middle Eastern person, Arab that I don't care about, go ahead and kill them. Except this time, the person in question, Anwar Al-Awlaki, was an American citizen who was from New Mexico. He was born in Mexico. He eventually turned towards supporting the war against America. Now, this is not without I would say without cause, because if you look into the history of Anwar Al-Awlaki and his treatment by the United States government, they long suspected him of having ties to terrorists. They interrogated him, harassed him, temporarily imprisoned him, put him in solitary confinement, and when he came out, he was a different man. He left and he began propagating a message against the United States and encouraging other people to take up arms against the United States. And the fact that he was a United States citizen, ultimately, Obama decided it didn't matter. Now, there have only been scant details on what exactly was the process that Obama took to make this happen. Lawyers from the ACLU, reporters from the New York Times, they've been filing FOIA requests against the Obama administration to find out who led the charge to do this, under what legality, and whether or not it was actually even constitutional. So the FOIA lawsuits have been going on for a while now, and recently we've seen two memos come out of this. One was released a couple of months ago that showed very little detail, and now we have another one that was even earlier. It's dated February 19th, 2010. And this was the first memo authored by Federal Appeals Court Judge David Barron. So again, we don't see much details in the memo. They don't actually say under what law this is constitutional. There's tons of information redacted and blocked out, so we only get pieces of it. But what we did find brings up some interesting points. Barron uses a Supreme Court decision regarding law enforcement officers' ability to use deadly force against suspects they believe are dangerous to them to justify the killing of an American citizen in another country. Barron writes, "The Supreme Court has noted if a suspect threatens the officer with a weapon or there is probable cause to believe he has committed a crime, including the infliction or threatened infliction of harm, deadly force may be used." So they take a ruling from the Supreme Court dealing with law enforcement in the United States and say, if Al-Awlaki has propagated a message of threats towards the United States government, then this allows us to use deadly force. And they also mention a couple times, we don't think this would be problematic with him being an American citizen. So they knew that people would think, okay, what about this guy's American rights? I mean, even if you are a so-called terrorist, and I would argue just any human beings around at all, anywhere, no matter what arbitrary borders you live in, whatever country, nation you want to claim, that you deserve a trial, you deserve to have your case heard, even if you're a so-called terrorist or whatever other derogatory term they want to use to demonize people. But the United States government disagreed, and what they're saying is if you propagate a message that is against the federal government and propagate a message that they say is about inflicting or threatening to inflict harm, then you basically lose your citizenship, you basically lose your constitutional rights, and they have the ability to assassinate you. We also know about the National Defense Authorization Act, which of course allows the definite detention of American citizens. So as we see this movement awakening of people rejecting the federal government's power and looking at situations like Ferguson and what happened in Boston, these police states that pop up in the name of keeping us safe or keeping the people down, people are waking up and they are propagating a message against the federal government. I mean, this whole message right here is against the federal government. And how long is it going to be before they say, okay, this person is becoming too loud and too dangerous, they just lost their constitutional rights and citizenship, drop a bomb on them, or indefinitely detain them? Of course, right now it's happening to a brown person in another country, so some people are like, oh, that'll never happen here. But that's how things happen. They do it incrementally. They talk about, oh, it's a terrorist. So some people justify, yeah, he was an American citizen, but he shouldn't have been a terrorist, so it's okay. But how long before it's an American citizen who just runs a website, who speaks out against people? I mean, we've seen examples of people likely being suicided or dying under mysterious circumstances, and who's to say that's not this program covertly working? But how long until they do it out in the open? You have to ask yourself, if you care about freedom, if you care about liberty for all, then why don't you care about Anwar Al-Awlaki? I go 90 miles an hour all day, all long. I wake up at 6:30, 7:30, 8:30 sometimes, and I work till 2:30, 3:30 sometimes, editing videos, writing articles, sending emails, taking phone calls, planning things, trying to eat and exercise and meditate in between all that, and I love it. But I also have to remember to remind myself to slow down. Slow down. Whatever you do for a living, whatever you do for fun, I imagine that you are busy as well. Our lives have become extremely busy where we're no longer working in the fields all day, toiling away at hard labor, but we still have a lot to do. We've got people to call, we got Facebook messages to return, we've got threads to watch and follow, documentaries to watch, family to spend time with, gardens to build, all kinds of things fill our time and fill our day. And so I wanted to talk for a moment about why you need to slow down, why I suggest and request that each of us spend time slowing down every day, or at least once a week. Maybe you're too busy to slow down once a day, but I hope that you can find the time. Because as I've talked about before, whether you're meditating, you're sitting on the back porch, just listening to the wind and watching the birds and the trees flow, you need time to reflect on what you've done in your day, to look back. I try at the end of every day to take a seat in my chair, to go meditate, and to really go through my whole day and to reflect on the moment I woke up, what I did I go to the restroom, what I ate, who I talked to, and just process that and think about all these things. And you'll find that when you do that, occasionally you remember things that you might not even have thought about. Oh, I forgot I had that conversation. Wow, that was really powerful. Oh, I forgot I ran into them. I'm so glad I did. And all kinds of thoughts flow from you. And I think that's a really helpful process because we go so fast in this modern technological world that often we don't have time to go out of the city, to go live on the farm, or just to stop and to give thanks and to think about what we've done that day, who we came across, what we're thankful for, who we're thankful for, and also to look ahead to the next day, to look ahead to the next beautiful adventure, because every single day that you're waking up is an opportunity to make change in your life. It's an opportunity to take your life in the direction that you choose to go, whatever that means. And think about this. What's important to you, what's important to those around you, how you can accomplish these things in a day-to-day process, and at the end of that day, being able to stop, slow down, and give thanks for all the things that you've accomplished and all the things that you're going to accomplish. So I hope you'll take a moment and slow it down. So that's it for this week, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of The Conscious Resistance. You can find all our past episodes on our YouTube channel at Conscious Resistance. Also, if you prefer audio, download the audio clips off of our SoundCloud. And of course, all those videos, articles, news reports, and other vlogs from our team can be found on theconsciousresistance.com. I want to thank Voluntary Virtues Network, who plays our show on Monday nights, and of course Liberty Movement Radio, who is now broadcasting the show throughout the week. In 2 weeks, I will be in New York City for the 14th anniversary of 9/11. I'll be live streaming out there, getting lots of interviews, and talking to plenty of great people. So stay tuned for that, and please enjoy the music. Remember, if you have any independent music videos from artists who are consciousness raising, positive, getting the word out, please send them over to us. You can send them to me at Derrick at theconsciousresistance.com, and we will get them out there, because there will not be a positive cultural evolution and revolution without the music to inspire the people and get them moving. So that's it for this week. Thank you, guys. And as always, if you can hear this, you are the resistance. Peace.
What we have here is a failure to communicate. Come on.
Give me that bass line. That bass line. Put that bass line in there.
With all this killing going on, did I forget to mention how we're strange music, bitch? Oh, I got your attention now. It wasn't the decade grind that I put in the dented ground, or the million battle rappers you seen wreck was tearing down. I'm marching marching towards domination. You're Anne Frank and my Atticus Finch when I'm occupations. I brung the best S with the excess innovation. For the minimum living a days in such a similar civilization.
Fuck a leader, they buying followers. Awaken deities every day that I write a verse. Living with polymers, actors, and rock bottomers. I'm here until I hit 88 on barometers. Good Scots, the plot thickens. To all you bitchin' storytellers, get my Charles Dickens. With all the fixins, wish death to none except the mission. Out of religion, still I pray to something for forgiveness. Impaired visions.
Marching to the minutes, I'm living my life as a resurrection of a Jack the Rhythm Ripper. So please carve me in his image and mark us into Guinness. When I break these hardened critics, you can't look death in the face if you can't brave the Arkham limits. This is not fair. Claim you want the fame, but then you're not there. So you came to race, but stopped where it became a maze. How not rare. Prepping for the Armageddon, trying not to skip the hell. School shop with honor, common never seemed to fit me well.
Snakes in my backyard, ounce on my coffee stand. Go bomb, swing that bat, beg for approval stamps. If not, it's shark tanks and human anchors. Soiling green dreams for fiends with a side of that Ed factor. When chapters turn, kings will burn. Servants watching blind until the perfect time to still return. They pan flash while gods laugh and the roles reversed. So fuck politics, why not flick match and watch it burn? To scorch earth.
This is my last will and testament. My last hidden messages. We outlived every estimate. Since we're gone, take the rest of it. And we'll march on, march on, march on, march on. We'll march on, march on, march on. Left, right.
100 steps to the gallows, knowing you can't escape them. Bothered hardly, put all of your sorries in a sack and save them. We the new breed, hardest of the martyrs. Call a truce, please, before we sober up. Pin Armageddon on the loose leaf. We too deep, rocking the poker face, and so you know the fold. They look at us like suckers, we the lowest on the totem pole. Might as well cut off his feet, he could never go toe to toe. Evacuate men, women, and children. This shit's about to
high
blow.
societies controlled by the elitists. Keep an eye on me with GPS, radio frequency, ID chips. I'm sleepy guy from secrets they've been keeping. Why I'm sheepish? Design a fetus, treat my privacy like I don't need it. Nah, no rhyme or reason. This is survival season where you could be tried for treason, banishment, radicals, Bible beating, mannerless. Surveillance, panoramic, scan my wrist. Mannequins, barcoded for government management. Fall in.
Look it, we're all in. Everyone is a target, teetering on insanity. Reasoning with the heartless, bargaining with the devil, manipulating the circumstances. Easier done, everyone is a worker in certain plans. Never see a wrench in them, when will it end? I'm gripping the wheel of misfortune, cousin, and let it spin. Get it in, fuck if that. Everybody gets on the outs, trying to shelter up and put something edible in their mouth.
I'm restless, not an ounce of sleep, tormented by the sound of screams. Shepherd's ride, breath of God, cascading 1,000 feet. From the flaming bush they gave me a push on the top of a mountain's peak. To test the bounds of my mortality, baby boom, go, biddy bye-bye. Uniform pressed to the crest, my weapon shine. Leave my army to the death, never let my message die. Step in time, God I miss you, you would hardly recognize me if you saw me. Now my soul burns every day, I'm saying I'm sorry.
This is
Never
my
thought
last will and testament. My last hidden messages. We outlived every estimate. Since we're gone, take the rest of it. And we'll march on, march on, march on, march on. We'll march on, march on, march on. Left, right.
This music is too loud, it got me going sicko. My enemies is my homies, they got me playing pickle. Paranoid, so I keep my MW3. That's the gun I use when I'm killing on MW3. And I don't give a fuck, I embrace my main followers. And I pack something that'll make your chest plate hollower. Hit them with the bullets, make them twist like Oliver. I spit sick shit, you couldn't see me on a monitor. I vomit, nigga, maybe I need drugs to survive. Catch me in the club with a grudge and a 9. Tech 9, only cause I love strange music. A lot of niggas talk about it, but most of them won't do it. He's a star, I bring the war, kinda like George Lucas. I'm a germ, I'm a fungus, my nigga, I'm a mucus. Mayday, mayday, mayday. I'm coming to join you, homie. With a fat ass sack and an AK on my back. Let's get it.
We don't want any cover-up. And the way the police chief is handling this investigation, it looks like 100% cover-up. He did not come out with any information about the officer or the shooting for 6 days. What does that tell you? That means they had 6